Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all in this truth from renewable wealth, peace, and salutations to the 144,000, and the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude, unto you I say shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Spirit. And I'm going to entitle this one, These People Are Through. And the people that are really the ones bugging out and completely losing their minds because of how society is collapsing, the economy is collapsing, people are getting fired from their jobs, getting laid off. You got grocery prices, inflation at an all-time high. Is these 2/3 of the nation of Israel, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and these heathens out here, the Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, they're completely losing it because ultimately this is their empire, this is their kingdom, and they're struggling in their own kingdom, which really you should be thriving, but that time of Esau, Edom, and pretty much anybody who lived here in America, so-called, came over here to thrive, the American dream. But now people are starting to realize that the American dream, working a 9-to-5 for 40 years, getting your pension, your 401k, retiring with the white picket fence, with the wife, the dog, the children, you send them to college, it was all bullshit, because now Esau, Edom, he's collapsing the system to make way for the N to the W to the O, which is going to be ran, by that micro C-HIP, the MOTB, and the majority of people are going to have to take it, because right now people, they don't really have, they have a glimpse of hope, but they know, they could feel it in their spirits, in their minds, that this place, America, Babylon the Great, is through, it's finished. And that's why these people out here, they're bugging out, they're completely losing it. They're bugging out while, they're still able to go to work, still able to go to these clubs, these bars, movies, be consumed with the bread and the circus, with all the distractions, and yet people are still losing it. So how much more when all hell breaks loose, when their bank accounts get taken away with all the money that they got in their bank accounts, because majority of Americans, they're living paycheck to paycheck. Those who actually have some money in their bank accounts, when they get wiped out, they're gonna completely lose it. When the stock market collapses, all their bonds, their life savings is gonna be completely done away with. And pretty much majority of the people here in America, they know that this place is over. They know that it's done, but they're still hanging on to that small glimpse that somehow America is gonna be healed. That it's just a rough time right now, but America's gonna get through it. No, this place is done and it's finished, and it's only gonna get worse. This is Isaiah chapter 24 and verse 4. The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. And who are the haughty people? The people who are very prideful right now is mainly here in America. You got homeless people being proud. But ultimately, pride comes before destruction. That's why Yahweh Shai has allowed these Americans, these Babylonians, to get puffed up. Ultimately, so he could bring them down from that high estate. Especially these Edomites. These white people. They're very prideful, even though their economy's collapsing, the society's collapsing. People are getting laid off left and right. AI is taking over jobs. People are still prideful, and especially these women in the West. The American women, Eve, Keisha, Big Shirley. You can't tell them shit. Ultimately because Esau Edom has given them this social media, Instagram, and people are living this fake lifestyle in the matrix, plugged in, completely detached from reality. People don't know that Jacob's trouble is right around the corner and all hell is about to break loose. Esau Edom's gonna come down with that great wrath, with that sword. Gonna put a lot of people to death, but people don't know that because ultimately people are too caught up with the cares with the cares of the world, completely unaware of what's about to take place. But us, they have this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Yeah, we're mourning, but ultimately we're mourning because we want to be delivered out of here. We're not mourning because America's falling and we're losing our jobs and our 401ks, our pensions, whatever it may be, because we're not invested in that. No, we're invested in the kingdom of heaven. That's what we're looking forward to, not for America to continue on forever like the rest of these people, these 2/3, these Edomites, the Proud Boys. I'm going to jump down to verse 7, Isaiah 24 and verse 7. The new wine mourneth, the vine languisheth, all the merry-hearted do sigh. That's right, the new wine, this is American lifestyle, the American dream. You go to school, get your degree, you become successful. Those days are over with. You got a lot of people out here with college degrees that aren't able to find jobs. They're out here homeless, living in their car. The sports, the bread and circus, the NFL, the NBA is losing viewership at a record number because people, pretty much they know that this place is through, that it's done, that it's done for, but yet they're still hoping that somehow it's going to bounce back, but it's not. People are finally realizing that they've been duped. You go to school and you get your degree and then boom, success. No. Ultimately, Esau Edom, he sold a dream to the 2/3 of the nation of Israel and to these heathen, and they fell for it. They fell for the okie doke. Verse 8, the mirth of tabrets ceaseth, the noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joy of the harp ceaseth. And that's right, this music out here is just getting worse. Sexy Red, Glorilla, Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, you got young NBA, young boy. All this is degenerate music lets you know the state of the country, which pretty much America has fallen. It's not that that powerhouse that everybody feared, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. All these countries are bucking up against America because now America, Babylon the Great, is the laughingstock of the world. You got moles running around teaching your children in elementary schools, reading them. You got these YNs over here with switches, deleting each other at a record high number. You got Keisha over here shaking her funky ass. Pretty much this place has become full-on degenerate, and it's only going to get worse, till Yahweh Shai has to put a stop to it and shoot missiles over here and come back with the heavenly hosts and the chariots. Verse 9, they shall not drink wine with a song. Strong drink shall be better to them that drink it. That's right, people out here getting drunk to forget the sorrows of, Babylon the Great. But yet, it don't go away, because ultimately what people don't realize is that, this devil Esau, even the silver-clean white man, he doesn't know how to rule the earth. That's why the whole earth is languisheth. And people are really the true solution, for everything that's going around the world is a righteous rulership, which is going to be the kingdom of heaven being established upon the planet Earth. That's what's going to fix everything. But right now, the whole world is completely out of whack because of this devil that's ruling it. You know, he's polluted all the food. He's polluted the air. He's polluted the water. He's polluted the minds of these people. And it's to the point, and he's polluting, you know, the wine, the yayan, you know, GMO wine. He's polluting the strong drink. This devil has gone out throughout the four corners of the earth and completely destroyed everything, you know, destroyed life. And that's why Yahweh Shemel Shai is going to have to put a stop to this devil, because he has done nothing but destruction, you know, caused destruction. It is Isaiah chapter 19 and verse 14. The Lord, Yahweh Shemel Shai, had mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggered in his vomit. And that's right, Yahweh Shemel Shai has put, you know, that perverse spirit in spiritual Egypt, which is America. You know, people are completely bugging out, you know, losing their minds because they're losing their jobs. They don't know where their next meal is going to come from. They either got to choose to pay rent or get groceries. You know, they're not able to find a job. You know, people are getting replaced by AI. People are completely bugging out and losing, and that's why people are only going to wax worse and worse. Verse 15, neither shall there be any work for Egypt which the head or tail, branch or rush may do. That's what's happening right now. All these different jobs are getting replaced by AI. You know, you got even truckers, 18-wheelers, you know, driving themselves now. Amazon is replacing all his, you know, not all his workforce, but a lot of his workforce with robots. You got drones, like little robot carts, you know, delivering your food, replacing DoorDash and Uber Eats drivers. These are all signs that this place is collapsing, and it's on its way to that N to the W to the O system that's going to be ran by the MOTB, the micro CHIP, and that's the only way that you're going to be able to buy and sell. You know, but us to have this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, we know that we're going to have to walk away from all this. We're going to have to walk away from our jobs. We're going to have to walk away from you know, our houses, apartments, whatever it may be, to completely detach ourselves from the system, because this system, the only way that you're going to be able to participate in it is by taking that MOTB, by bowing the knee to this devil, Esau, Edom. But we know that the elect are not going to bow down to this devil. We're not going to take that MOTB, Lord willing, to be a part of that number, you know, because Yahweh Shemel Shai is going to have to put it in our spirit to resist, you know, to resist the hour of temptation, because the hour of temptation is coming up on the whole earth. You know, a majority of people that don't have the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, that don't have the fear of the Lord, you know, the 2/3 of the nation of Israel, they're going to trust in Esau. They're going to go down to Egypt and take that Karagman, because ultimately they don't fear Yahweh Shemel Shai. They don't know what happens, or a lot of them do know, you know, the judgment is going to come with taking that Karagma. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. I'm going to read that again. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few, and those that look out of the window will be darkened. And that's what's happening right now. The grinding is season. You got all these shipments, you know, that's not coming in from China anymore. You got Trump imposing all these tariffs, and pretty much all these different countries, they're done doing business with America. And it's only going to get worse with all these different AI robots replacing all these jobs, all these call centers, Amazons, FedEx, UPS. The grinding is seasoning, and it's only going to get worse. All this is going to lead to the grocery store shelves being empty, no food coming in. And that's when people are completely going to bug out. When there's no food or when there's no water, when you take the bread and circus away, when you mess with people's money, you take their bank accounts, no more paychecks coming in, that's when people completely lose their minds. And that's what it's going to take. Because right now, people are, they're still able to go to work, go to their 9 to 5, go to the clubs and on the weekends. But once that gets taken away, they're completely going to lose it, because they're losing it now. But how much more when all those dainties, those comforts get taken away? If they're doing it in the green tree, how much more when it's dry? Verse 4, Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 4, and the door shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. In verse 3, they'll look out of the windows be darkened. That's pretty much going into the optimism, the optimism that people have in America for this place that, to continue is they don't see a future. That optimism that America's gonna bounce back, pre-2020, that's completely done away with. People are starting to wake up to the fact that this place is through, and that's why their countenance, it shows that, you can feel it in their spirit. A lot of them are putting up an act, but we know ultimately Yahweh Shemel Shai has put the spirit on majority of these people out here, these 2/3 and these heathen, to put it in their spirit to know that this place is done. Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 2, it is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all man, and the living will lay it to his heart. And that's what the elect are doing. We're in the house of mourning, because ultimately we know that we're in captivity, that we need deliverance, that we need this place to be destroyed, we need this place to crumble for us to get delivered out of here. But 2/3 Jake, this is all they know. They think that, this is the end all be all for life, but we know that that's not the case. We know that we got something better to look forward to, which is the kingdom of heaven. Verse 3, sorrow is better than laughter, for by the sadness of the countenance the heart is made better. Verse 4, the heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. That's right. Ultimately, the elect, us are the hopeful elect. We're not in the spirit of mirth, going to the clubs and the bars 24/7 like these 2/3 and these wicked ass heathens are doing, because ultimately that's all they know. That's the highlight of their week, going to these clubs, these bars, going out with their women, because 2/3 Jake, they don't know any better, and this is all they know, because ultimately they don't have that hope, in the kingdom of heaven. But this truth, this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, this is what keeps us stable. This is Isaiah 33 and verse 6. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and the strength of salvation, the fear of the Lord, Yahweh Shemel Shai is his treasure. And this is what's keeping us stable, in these perilous times, because ultimately, majority of the people out here, especially the 2/3 of the nation of Israel, they don't have that hope. They don't have, the hope of being delivered, because ultimately they want to stay here. They want this place to continue, and that's why Yahweh Shemel Shai is going to leave them here to be burnt up, because their hope is in this place to continue, not to be delivered out of America, out of captivity. But this is why this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is so precious, because ultimately this is what keeps us stable in these crazy times we're in. While the rest of the world's bugging out, completely losing their minds, not knowing what's going to come next. Us that are in the know, that have been given this knowledge by Yahweh Shemel Shah, we know what's next. We know that it's only going to get worse before it has to get better. But that's pretty much the point. Pray this is edifying to the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone, who I learned this truth from the well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude, unto your